All right.
Welcome to Uncarcerated. I'm Lee Scott.
I am Kevin Scott.
And make sure you follow us, not in a police car, but on Twitter, at Uncarcerated on Twitter. Hit that like, rate, and subscribe button. If you are a first-time listener or viewer to the show, welcome. This show basically covers narratives for people as they're coming home from institution to varying degrees. We've had people that have been home for a week, people that have been home for years. We talk about their journey into the criminal justice system, what their experience in prison was like, and then the triumphs and pitfalls on that journey home. And then we also talk to people in the prison reform world as well. And I guess the two main themes of the show, Kevin, one, we want people to be able to tell their own stories, and for the guests, be able to capture their own stories. For the viewer, we want to show you that the people going to prison maybe aren't who you think they are, and their experience there is pretty awful. And then the other part of the show is sort of the idea that we would like to send less people to prison and make the experience a lot less traumatic in whatever small way we can.
That sounds like an improvement. I think also it's cool that we at least one time we have talked to somebody who's still currently incarcerated, which hopefully we can have more of that in the future as well, which is an amazing sort of time in a person's life to be able to hear their experience in real time. And then also you kind of mentioned like talking to other people like sort of working in the world of incarceration, which is a pretty decent segue to some advocacy groups on the outside who've been very active in the last week or so in particular, because in the news and Alachua County where we are has been sort of a ground zero for this. There's been folks who believe they had the right to vote because of Amendment 4, which restored felons' rights to vote. Who voted and who have now been charged with voter fraud because of the confusion of the law. And so now there's been some legal gathering of resources and financial gathering of resources to help these folks get basically like a due process in court to figure out like what the fuck happened. And so Florida Rights Restoration Coalition has been pretty much at the front of getting all that stuff happening, but coincidentally happens to be in the county where we are sitting right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that we had stripped people's voting rights for any reason, let alone making a mistake, in the first place was pretty ridiculous. And then, of course, people here locally that Kevin works with and that I know did a ton of work to get Amendment 4 passed and restore people's voting rights. And there's a lot of like hang-ups and technicalities, and I just think it's awful that people are making it their life's mission to undo that. And of course, the spin is going to be, look, prisoners voting in elections, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's what the headline's going to read.
Criminal does crime.
And eventually these charges will, hopefully will be dropped and everything will get cleared up, but the headline will still be there. And I'm sure nationally, people are going to use it as talking points. And that's pretty awful. That's like propaganda 101.
For sure. So I mean, and like that's another, and maybe this is a semi-decent segue to talk to our guest today of somebody who's been home for a little bit, but the idea that it doesn't end at the prison gate. Your sentence may be done on paper, but your life is still hampered by this. It's still tethered to that experience sort of the rest of your days. And so like sometimes, many, many, many years later, you're still haunted by that. I talked to somebody this week who has done incredible shit, has like helped to basically like operate the group that was behind Amendment 4, raised $30 million to help settle people's fines and fees, and she still has a hard time finding a place to live just because she has a record of her own. So like it almost like doesn't matter what you do in the eyes of society, you're still that thing on that piece of paper. Anyway, so like that's the reality for most people who've been in prison.
Well, and I think that's the big tangible stuff, like finding a place to work, finding a place to live, being able to financially support yourself, which is struggle enough in this world without having a criminal record. But then there's all the intangible stuff. I can tell you that I've been home for years and I still have incredible hangups that I'm not doing enough, that the world's going to fall apart, constantly apologizing for shit I didn't do, like just little things like that, that carry over with you for many years. And you constantly have to remind yourself, I'm allowed to be here, so.
Well, I know one of the things that can be so helpful after incarceration is like connecting with other people who've been through it. Like there's something like so powerful about like, holy shit, this guy understands. He's been through it. He knows what a chow hall looks like. He's been through count time. He's been through all.
Yeah, if you know anyone I could talk to, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find somebody. But like, there's something like amazing about that helps on the after incarceration. But during incarceration, for me, that was especially important, was having connections with people that were like-minded or like sort of like about the same shit that I was about, and like having some like friendships and like real brotherhood while in prison.
Road dog. I've had 2 road dogs on here. This will be your second road dog.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So our guest today is John, my buddy John Poet, who is somebody that we very much vibed when I was in prison. We spent a lot of time together. We were buddies. We had some good times. We had some bad times. We went through it all. But yeah, John, come on, man, and we'll unpack a little bit of your story. Look at that handsome
John, welcome
Hey,
to the show.
all right. I just like woke up. I thought I missed chow time, so I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. So
Good to see you.
I guess like
Thank you for letting me be on the show, man. It's an honor, to be honest, especially my good friend Kevin. You've been really important in my life, in prison and after prison, and I get to meet your significant other, Mr. Scott. So
Right.
It's quite an honor to be here. And thank you for the 3 soups and the 2 honey buns you sent me for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that shit was steep, man. You don't come cheap. You sent me back, man. No, it's good. So like maybe one like great way to start is just sort of like hear a little bit about your background like prior to going into prison. We obviously want to focus on the time inside, the time after, but maybe just for a little background, just what was going on in your life before you went in.
Yeah, sure. This is early 2000s. I was pretty heavy in the drug game, cocaine, ecstasy, working for a major unit, you could say. And, someone robbed one of my workers for a significant amount of money. And I felt it was appropriate for me to step in and do something about it, which is totally dumb. And I ended up shooting someone and lighting them on fire inside their vehicle. They survived the attack. I got 10 years in prison for attempted murder. I didn't snitch on anyone, which is really important, I think, in my life. 5 years probation on top of that. I got off early term probation about 3 years ago.
When you first, so obviously you went to the county jail and you went to, where'd you go, to Orlando for the reception center?
Yes. Yeah, I spent 8 months in Hernando County because that's where the crime happened. I actually lived in Tampa at the time. I had that mindset like a kingpin, like I could get away with this crime. So I'm going to take this guy to Brooksville where it's all wooded and I'm going to kill him there. And I'm going to get away with this and I'm going to run to Mexico. Everything's going to be fine. And I did that. I ran to Mexico. I was in Matamoros, Mexico for 4 weeks. And I got caught on the border coming back in to Brownsville, Texas.
And they shipped you back to Hernando?
Correct. Yeah. In a van with U.S. Marshals. It was a fun time.
Yeah, I took one of those van rides, John. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I didn't do as much time as you did, but I did a significant amount of time. And I gotta say, the 4 days in that van was by far the worst experience I've ever had. I still don't like riding in a car with someone while they're driving. I would much prefer to drive.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's ridiculous that they're even allowed to do that.
Yeah. So let me ask you, did they stop at McDonald's and Burger King and get you the 2 burgers and a glass of water?
One time
Did they do that?
they stopped at Burger King once. They were only supposed to drive for like, I think it was like 8 hours on and then like 8 hours off was supposed to be the rule, but one of the legs was like 21 hours without stopping. And then of course they pull the vans over at these undisclosed locations. You can't use the phone.
Right.
There's, it's
Right.
ridiculous.
I have a memory that's popping in my head. Like they pulled over at a rest stop. I don't know what state we were in, but I think there was like 4 guys in the van, and they literally like closed off the whole bathroom so that they could chain us up and like take us into this bathroom and stand over us while we, use the bathroom, and told all the visitors or people that are on vacation or just resting at this rest stop, you can't come in here. These are wanted people, or, these are dangerous people. And that just stuck in my head,
Can you tell us, like, what do you remember what your mindset was when you were in that van and then getting back to county and you're facing, like, I would imagine a significant amount of time? Like, where was your head at there? Had you come back down to earth at that point and thought, oh shit, what did I do? Or were you like, run it, like, I don't care? Like, where were you at mentally then?
Well, for years and years, in that time frame that I was living that extravagant life, I was making probably 20 grand on the low end a week, like 80 grand a month. So, but with all the pressure that came in, like I always was watching my back, always had things to worry about. And whenever I ran to Mexico, I thought that I could just hide out and live there forever. So whenever I got busted at the border coming back in, like it was almost like a relief, like it's over. I can rest now. Like I don't have to watch over my back anymore. I don't have to worry about anything anymore. And that's like really sick mindset to have, But that's how I knew I was going away for a long time, because my charges, they were first degree attempted murder with a firearm, kidnapping while armed with a firearm, and conspiracy to commit first degree murder. So I was like, well, these all carry a life sentence.
Yeah.
So when they got me back to Hernando County, they actually were preparing me for the death penalty, which I thought was really strange, because my victim, he was still on life support in the hospital because he had over 43% of his body was third degree burned, and he had a bullet in his lung. So they didn't expect him to survive this. So to be prepared for the death penalty, I was like in shock. Then they had me on administrative confinement, and a public defender came to see me, and I actually signed. They're like, you're going away for life. I was like, well, let me sign for 25 years right now. And I did. Then I actually hired a lawyer, and we retracted that statement, which is great. But just to sign your life away for 25 years, that's kind of insane,
So when you were there in the jail, like you're waiting for like 8 months, I guess you were there. That was the total time in Hernando. Did you have anyone to like any preparation for what prison was going to be like? Like you're now like, okay, I'm going to go for 10 years.
Yeah.
What do I need to prepare? How do I get set for this experience?
Yeah, county jail, I felt was a big joke, because you have guys that been to prison before. So I felt like just to pass their time, people that never been into prison, we're gonna fuck with you a little bit,
Yeah.
So I'm covered in tattoos. So they go, oh, you know what they call them in prison? I'm like, what? They're like, they're called "don't fuck me" tattoos. I'm like, really? They're like, oh yeah, you're too cute for prison. He's like, as soon as you get there, man, you're gonna have to do something.
I heard
You're gonna have to do something. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, I was scared shitless when the van picked me up like 3 in the fucking morning from Hernando and took me to Orlando. Then they strip search you outside, and they put you through all that bullshit, the orientation process. Then when they jump you on the yard, because they always put you on the yard, I'm thinking, I'm like, all right, they're gonna like take advantage of me. Somebody's gonna jump me. What the hell is gonna happen here? Then, what they call them in prison, I don't want to, talk about our homosexual community, but they call them punks in prison. And I could see that like a mile away. There were more punks than there were actually like straight guys in there. So I'm like, whew, I'm safe. there's more people giving up the pussy than people trying to take it. You know,
That's
I don't know if that was.
Yeah,
was
it's
that rude
always
for me to say on the
yeah.
show?
That's gonna be the tagline. I found that like super. I was always like, I grew up in the punk rock community, and so I was like, I've always thought punk was great. You know, you don't say that out loud.
Yeah, punk, yeah.
Yeah, punk.
Yeah, I'm a punk.
Yeah, in prison
Yeah, I'm a
now.
punk too. I'm also a punk.
Yeah. So you were
Yeah,
at-
don't say that there.
so
Don't
you
do
were-
it.
When you were at the reception center, how long were you there for?
I was there for 5 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. And
I
was
was,
it?
I was at the main unit for 4 weeks, and they sent me to the East unit for 1 week. Then they transferred me. My first camp was Liberty CI,
Okay. Yeah, that's a
which
good one.
most people don't know that. That's in, the Panhandle of Florida, about 30 minutes from Tallahassee.
Yep.
At the time, back in 2007, when I went in, it was noted as the most violent prison in Florida.
Yeah, back in I went in 2010, and it was Liberty, ACI, Columbia were the three.
So
places.
you were at Liberty then?
No, I was at ACI.
You went to Liberty?
I went to ACI.
Okay. Yeah, gay CI is what they call it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Is that true? I never been there.
I mean, not really any more or less than any other place, but when I got there, they put me, the East unit was the medical unit, and the West unit was the work camp. And when I got there, I was on the East unit for like a month or two, and then they moved me to the West unit to go out the gate and work outside. And they did a big sweep and took everyone that was a punk and moved them all into one dorm. So everybody was in one dorm, and you'd walk by that dorm, and there was like people like sleeping in the same bed together and everything. It was wild.
So it was like Rome. It was like a harem of
Like
nothing
Caligula.
but dicks and
It was like
ass.
Caligula. Yeah.
I would have loved that dorm. Kevin and I would have fucking ran that dorm, actually.
That's right.
But
So,
I have an interesting story about the whole working outside the gate thing. Maybe we'll get into that later. Unless you want to get into it now.
Yeah, no. How long before you were moved down to like medium security and went out the gate? Like, what was the first part of your bid like?
Okay, so I spent, I think it was a month at Liberty. Then they sent me to their annex, which is called Quincy Annex, which is about 30 minutes away. And it's like a 3-dorm camp. It used to be the cooking school back in the day, but they took that program out with funding and all that other shit. So I spent a year and 4 months at Quincy. I put in my good adjustment transfer to Avon Park, Polk, and I forget the other one, but they approved me for Avon Park. So I spent a year and 4 months at Quincy, then they transferred me. We went through Butler, and that's an interesting story because they sent me to the West unit, and everybody knows about, the stories about the West unit. They have the gold tooth. They have the gold tooth in a jar there when you go in through reception, and K Wang Slim and all that other crazy, prison stories you hear.
Yep.
But the interesting story, when I got to the West unit, they were country as hell at that time. All the guards were. And I later found out about this whenever I got out, not while I was there. But I guess that the West unit at Butler, they had a high, like with the guards, there was like a lot of KKK members and a lot of white supremacist members that were guards there.
What?
I didn't know that then.
That's
Yeah.
surprising.
No, there was a whole,
Yeah.
that was all
No,
like,
They actually did a sting. The FBI did a sting on, I think I might have sent you the link, Kevin, but they did a sting on correctional officers there about an inmate that was there, a black inmate that was there, and they were trying to kill him afterwards. Did I ever send you that link?
After his release,
So-
he was already released.
Okay, yeah. So I was there at that time, and we were in the reception process on the West unit, and this guard came out, country as hell, and he started to talk about like all you black inmates that like to have these white women come visit you and blah blah blah. Like he was going off on all the not white inmates, but anything that was a different color than white, he was going off on. And I was like, holy shit, this is really fucking happening right now. But got through that shit, transferred to Avon Park. I met Kevin. What year did you come in, Kevin?
13.
13. So I was there 2 years already. No, I was actually there longer. 3 years maybe.
Okay. Yeah, you seem pretty like established by the time I got there.
Yeah.
Did
But
you,
yeah, kudos to Kevin because like he was truly Kevin, like this guy right here, he got me through some of the worst times of my life. Like if it wasn't for you, man, I don't know if I would be on this program right now, man, for real.
Likewise.
Like you were amazing to me. Like we've had some really intimate, amazing conversations. You've been a true friend. That is a fact.
Yeah, same. We had some good times and some bad times.
We did, man. And comedy, like that's what I love about your show because that's what got me through the whole prison experience was comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I remember, I think you said something about laughing at a funeral. Like that's how I am. Like I can do that,
Yeah.
And that was my mechanism to survive the whole thing. And that's what Kevin and I would do all day. We would fucking crack jokes, crack on like other inmates, crack on guards. That's how we survived every day. And it was just a whole bunch of fucking laughter. Like I've laughed the hardest in prison. I cried the hardest in prison. I loved the most in prison. Like, people think prison is all bad. It is, but it's not in another way. It sounds really fucking crazy, but like you get to feel and experience every emotion as a human. And prison provides that for you.
I also think like for most people in prison, we're sobering up. They say you're emotionally arrested at the first age that you use that. So, this is the longest period in a lot of our lives that we had been physically and emotionally sober. So, we're laughing legitimate laughter for the first time since maybe we were kids. We're feeling emotions. We're missing people in a way that had been numbed by using for so long. So, and you're doing it around a lot of other people with a collective experience, which I think the value of shared experience can't be underrated. So it was definitely the hardest I've ever laughed was there.
Now, when you mean using, do you mean like drugs or alcohol or something like that?
Right.
Okay. Yeah. See, I didn't really have that issue so much because like when I got to prison, there were more drugs in prison than there were on the street.
No.
Come on,
No,
Kevin.
Yeah, I know
What was going on?
Hell yeah, I know.
I mean, there absolutely there were. I mean, I can tell you some stories, not mentioning any names, and like walking into a cell, and there was like maybe a pound of fucking K2 on their table, or you remember Gula? Like I remember walking back to my cell, and Gula's on fucking ecstasy, like rolling his ass off.
So that sounds
like,
like the worst experience.
Yeah, fuck that. I would like. We obviously we weren't getting high in prison personally. A lot of people were, and I do not understand how like I could never do it. No. I wouldn't want to be that out of control. And we saw people like getting drunk as fuck all the time, getting high, getting into fights. It's like this is just miserable. Like this is like the worst place to be doing this. Like what a not a great place to like lose control of your ability to defend yourself, to like see what's coming behind you, like all that shit.
Yeah, passed out, sleeping too hard. Like I'll tell you, one time I was at Lake Butler and I had a bunkie who was like, you probably experience this at Lake Butler. They've got the permanents there, right? The people that are permanently, they wear white instead of blue. And they're like the guys with the wristwatches in the overcoat, like they're hustling all the people coming in. And my bunkie was a permanent, and he had 30 years, and he was from New York. And I remember him telling me his story. And one night he goes, "Hey man, you want to smoke some weed?" And I was like, nah, man, like I'm not interested or whatever. And he goes, listen, if you're going to smoke, now's the time to do it, because when you get to your camp, they're going to drug test you occasionally. So now would be the time. So I'm like, fuck it. So he rolls this joint and puts sugar on it. It was the only time I'd ever seen that, because they would put sugar on their joints because then it smells like someone burnt something in the microwave instead of smelling like weed. So it was the middle of the night and we hunkered down in the corner by where those heaters were. And he starts smoking this joint with me and he starts telling me this story. He's like, yeah, man, if you do enough time, you start to see people for who they really are. Like this mask comes off. The last guy I smoked with, he freaked the fuck out, but you'll be all right. And then he walks away. And I was just sitting there. I was like, what? Never again.
Now,
never did any more drugs.
Were you in prison when they took the cigarettes out?
I got there 2 weeks after so I had 2 weeks of smoking cigarettes.
Oh yeah, I can tell you some great stories because I was there for that whole transition, and that was fucking wild as shit, man. People are like taking packs of tops and trying to bury them on the rec yard, and stash them everywhere they could stash them at.
Yeah.
It was a wild time, man. I think that was 2011 they took that shit out.
2010, yeah.
Was it? Yeah, 2010, 2011, yeah. Yeah, that was a wild time, man. But what the prison don't realize is that creates a black market. You have guards that are making $10, maybe $15 an hour to work at that prison, and they can bring in a pack of cigarettes to an inmate or a cell phone or whatever, and their monthly pay would be that in one drop.
Right.
Yeah, we would see that. Like, we knew the guards that were bringing shit in, and they would like bring in a pack of cigarettes to somebody, and then he would go back later that night and bust them and take the pack of cigarettes from them and then go sell it to somebody else. It was fucking diabolical.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they make your family get searched like crazy coming in, as if they're the ones bringing all the shit in, but really it's typically the staff.
But I maybe it's a sickness inside my head, but in some ways I miss prison because I miss that camaraderie. You don't have that here in the free world.
Yeah.
You really,
So as you're getting closer to coming home, like, was there a point during your bid where, like, I guess this is a two-part question. At what point had you like decided, I know you said you got some relief when you got picked up. Was that the moment that you said, that's it, this is a new life for me, I'm never going back to that life? And then the second part of that question is, what were your plans for yourself as you got closer to going home?
Yeah, I mean, I had plans of, and that's a really hard question to answer, because while you're in there, as you guys know, you guys make these grand fucking plans of what you're gonna do when you get out, but like half of that shit never happens. You know what I mean?
Wow, we're doing it right now. I was like, I'm gonna do a shitty podcast.
Right.
Set the bar low.
Yeah, I had plans, but I wasn't really ready for what was gonna transpire when I got out. And when I got out, it was like a rude awakening.
Yeah.
No, like my experiences with jobs, like I try to get hired with Coca-Cola. I try to, because in prison they give you all these lists of people that hire felons.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, Coca-Cola hires felons. And I remember going to the Coca-Cola plant and trying to get a job there. And once they ran my background, they're like, can't hire you.
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys hire felons? They're like, yeah, we hire felons, but not your felon, not your felony. I'm like, that's insane to me.
Yeah, could you talk about like, I think that's a really good thing to talk about. It's like the difficulty of finding like employment, housing, things like that. Could you talk about like how many times you had to go to job interviews before you actually got a job? How many apartment hunting things you went on before you found a place to live? And like, just what the reality
Right. I don't know if I answered his question properly though.
No,
Did I answer what you wanted?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that dovetails into Kevin's question, which is, we kind of want to hear about like what your journey home was like.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, when I got out, I was gonna go live with my mother, who lived in a 55 and older trailer community, and that community doesn't allow felons to be there. So my mom actually hid me out for years of me living there before I could get established and go out on my own. So, I mean, it's tough, man. I've been out, what, 7 years now? And to be honest, I can't believe I haven't been back.
Right.
I've been one of the lucky ones because of all the hurdles and struggles we have to go through.
Has it affected you? I mean, obviously, this is probably a dumb question, but the tangible struggle of finding housing and work and being independent
Yes.
and leaving that
100%.
behind. Has it also affected you mental health wise? Has it been depressing?
Oh yeah, of course. I'm a heavy drinker.
Yeah.
Because of prison. I wouldn't say that's an excuse, but I think I drink more now. I've never been really a drug user, so drugs are not my thing. But alcohol for sure. I definitely have PTSD. I don't know. Have you guys experienced dreams of still being in prison?
Oh yeah, I had
I
one
get them
last
a lot.
night.
I get them all the fucking time, man.
Yeah.
At least a couple times a week.
Yep.
And the most frightening one is when Kevin's naked inside my cell,
Yeah, that's actually
Just like
with a
not
bag
a
of
dream.
Fritos.
Yeah,
With a bag of Fritos. He's like, you can get this little chub, but you can't have any of my Fritos. And I wake up in a cold sweat and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta have a drink now.
That's not a dream. That's called a memory, my man.
yeah. It's like secretly been sneaking over to your house in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I know we kind of breezed by it quickly. You actually made a pretty profound statement a little bit ago about like, I miss prison because of the camaraderie. And like, that's a really hard thing to admit. So thank you for saying that. It's actually a brave and bold thing to say, but I think that is something that I can relate to too, because we've kind of talked about it on other episodes and even this conversation of like, it's almost like a rare bonding. There's almost something like potentially like a very pure connection you can have with some other people. Like, I laugh harder than ever. I cry harder than ever. There's something like really profoundly real and authentic about the experience of being inside, being like so stripped away. So like that's really meaningful. And I think some people actually go back because of that, because like inside there was something meaningful happening in my life, where on the outside, now that I'm home, like I'm just some felon. I'm just some piece of shit on paper, and it's hard for me to like find a job and get a place. I'm traumatized. Like where like if I just go back in there, like that's those are my people, and I know how to navigate day to day in there and all that shit. So that's an intense thing to admit.
Do you remember? Hey Kevin, do you remember the guy Shaky?
Of course.
Do you remember Shaky?
Yes, sure.
So he had like a F letter or something, and I remember asking him one time. I'm like, why have you been to prison so many times? And he told me, do you know how good it feels whenever you get out of prison? He's like, that's why I keep on coming back so much, to experience that feeling of leaving.
Wow.
Christ.
Wow.
That's insane.
Did he ever tell you that?
No, I think I remember you telling me that about him.
Yeah. Well, after the fact, yeah. But I was like, well, this is my first time in prison. But I remember whenever I got out, I mean, it felt like, I can't even explain it in words, man. Whenever I walked out of Avon Park, so I can understand what Shaky meant by that. He keeps on going back for that feeling, but that's insane,
Yeah,
really
our brains are tricky, like ruining our pleasure centers for years. You take it where you can get it. So totally get that.
I know when I think about a lot of our times together inside, I often think about our times that we had in the TV room in particular, just because like that was like such a like central part. I wonder if you would be willing, just because I think this is so fucking funny, to talk about just sort of like the politics of the TV room and the name tags and Mojo.
Oh yeah.
And the whole thing, just because that was such a unique
wow.
experience.
Oh, the name tags on the chairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, Kevin, Kevin, we might need to do like 3 more podcasts with stories with us, because I'm telling you, I had some of the most amazing, phenomenal stories with you. I mean, to I don't know about you guys, but people often ask me about how was life in prison. Tell me about some prison stories, and I always go back to our stories, Kevin. Like Mojo, like what he was in there for life, and he was always picking at himself. Picking at himself, and he would eat it. Like he would eat his own skin. Like he had some skin infection.
Yeah.
Like constantly picking and eating, picking and eating. And Kevin said one time, he's trying to eat his way out of prison or some shit. I don't know. He's gonna escape by eating himself.
This guy must taste great.
Oh my God, that was. What was your verbiage, Kevin? What was your verbiage on that? I think I say it wrong, but
I think I said something like basically like this is his escape plan. He's going to escape one bite at a time.
yeah, by eating himself. Oh my God, dude, that was the most hilarious shit ever, man. Ever. That was so funny. But yeah, the politics in prison, man. That's Bob ran our TV room. You had to stand on the wall before you could get a seat. And if you don't show up to a couple programs a week, your seat is revoked in the TV room. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that? You know what I mean? You got to put your seat saver out before chow. Oh shit.
Yeah, we were in a T dorm, and so there were 6 TV rooms. Just for anyone who's watching who might not understand, so it's like basically it's a 2-story building with 6 wings, 6 TV rooms, and like they were
very segregated.
Yeah, it was pretty much like racially divided. There was like a white guy room. There was a Spanish room. There was a black guy's room. There was a couple that were just sort of like whoever wanted to come in. Like I would go to the Spanish one sometimes to watch soccer, but it was pretty like the white guy room at least. It was pretty like serious of like you had to like earn your way into the room.
Yeah, and then Bob was not playing around.
He was not fucking around. He was the VP canteen guy, so he was respected on the compound. And then it was like
respected by inmates.
Right, and then you had to
don't fucking talk during programs, and you better show up.
Do not speak during if you speak, so help you God, during a program, you're fucking dead.
He would just give you that look, bro. He would just look behind because he sat in the front row. I sat next to him. And he just give you that.
Yeah.
And you knew that you were fucking up.
And so yeah, and Poet and I, we actually got like really primo seats in the front row, and there was this big vertical pipe that ran in the room, and we could put our feet up on the pipe. So it was like we had like it was like luxury.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we were pretty in with Bob. Bob fucking loved me. He loved you.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't tell us not in that TV room.
Yeah. We were in there pretty good. But yeah, it was interesting.
We were in there pretty good.
The politics of like, the silence, and then like if somebody new showed up, if somebody like was in your seat, you gotta tell them to get the fuck out.
Oh yeah.
It was a whole like you might have to defend your seat. It was a whole thing. It was hilarious. It was fun.
If they pushed your seat saver out the way and like sat on your that we got to fight.
I still put my name tag on my couch before I. Yeah.
I think I might still have my seat saver at my mom's house that Gula made me.
Yeah.
I think I still might have it.
Yeah, I think I might have it too somewhere in a file. Yeah, he would take everyone's like nicknames or their names, and he would like draw it out and kind of like, make it look kind of cool, like make it like a bedazzled.
Yeah.
Saver's ridiculous.
We had similar things. I've had buddies of mine send me the art that we made. Like we did whole cartoons of each other and stuff. Some buddies of mine still have it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel like we went anywhere with this interview.
No,
it's been great.
Yeah. So like, I know we had like limited time, but like now that you're out, you've been out 7 years. Obviously, you kind of alluded to like you still feel the trauma, like you still carry the weight, the emotional gravity of that. Like, what about like just in terms of like practical shit, like jobs,
right?
Like relationship, what's going on now?
Yeah, I will answer that. That's a great thing. Something that you're trying to put in place, Kevin, with the whole application with, are you a felon or not? I know you were an advocate for that for a long time. Maybe you still are, still push for that. But I know for me, like the fear of the unknown. Like I heard all these stories about prison before I went. I watched all these movies about people in prison and all the horrific things that happen to them while they're in prison. So when I first went in, I was scared I was scared to death. But now that I spent 10 years in that atmosphere, I'm not scared anymore. Like it doesn't scare me. Like I know what if I ever get in trouble again, I know what I'm going to face. If that makes any sense. That fear of the unknown is gone now. I don't ever want to go back, but if I do, I know what to do. And that's kind of fucked up for me to think like that. I don't know if you guys feel that way as well, but
Yeah,
that's my mind's on.
You're not the first guest that's mentioned that. I mean, I think I can relate to a lot of what you've said. The nightmares. I mean, I just woke up with one last night, compiling trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. And yeah, they're. I know I'm never going to go back, but there is the fear of the unknown. Like anything can happen, and just that idea. Once you know the physical, emotional trauma of getting snatched off the face of the earth, like that's like nothing that you can even describe. And the idea that it could happen at any point, that you can get pulled over and get a dirty cop and, like all of a sudden you're back, or you piss off the wrong person. I mean, hell, doing this show, there's no telling who we make mad on this show. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I totally relate to what you're saying.
I want to touch on that because I remember watching an earlier show and you mentioned something about, I think you were coming home and there were cops or something. And you're like, oh shit, they're there for me.
Right.
Like every time it doesn't matter where I'm at, even if I see a fucking cop car, if I see a cop, I'm like, oh shit, oh fuck. It's a constant like PTS moment all over again.
Yeah.
They're there for me. They're coming for me. They're not there for me.
Right.
But it's traumatic. I really believe that our state, Florida State, should everybody that's released from prison, they should put them through some type of counseling. Yeah. Instead of all these programs that they put in place that we should do that just brings money that doesn't help any fucking body. They should put in programs that that gives us counseling when we come out, because we need it, man.
Yeah,
we need it. Doesn't matter if you spend 6 months in there, doesn't matter if you spend 6 years in there, doesn't matter if you spend 60 years in there. We need that counseling. We need to get better acquainted to this, to life, back out. Totally. Not that stupid ass program they put you in when you're at the end of your sentence. I forget what the program was called, but they're like, this is how you sign a check. Yeah, this is how you sign a check. This is how you, I'm like, what the fuck is this, man?
Yeah,
we need that.
Just the name is insulting.
And I believe it should be someone that's been in our shoes as well. I believe they should have a prisoner that will give you that counseling, that's made it. Because people, like, whenever I speak to people and they ask me questions about prison, it's so hard to explain to them what we went through if they weren't there.
Right.
So, these counselors should be someone that's been where we've been and experienced what we experienced.
That's what I've been saying.
All in all, to be honest, that's true. Yeah. All in all, my prison experience was actually kind of wonderful, to be honest. Like, I never got raped. I never got tried. I never was in a whole bunch of fights. Like, my navigation through prison's been pretty fucking good, and I have nothing but wonderful stories. It was almost like a vacation to me. I have no horrific fucking stories to tell anyone, I mean, I can tell you what's happened. Like, I got to see other people, but like nobody ever like raped me in the shower. You know what I mean? That wasn't prison for me. Maybe for Kevin, but not for me.
I'm laughing. That's not funny. I was saying, as you were talking, totally unrelated, you are the guy who there was one day when you were in the TV room, you got up, you walked over to the hot water closet, you stood there for a second, and you started airing out your shorts. And I was like, oh, that's the fart closet. You taught me about the fart closet.
God, it's been so long since I've seen somebody air out a fart. Nobody does that in public.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you were in the grocery store and like
I was like,
someone just aired out a fart on the bread
I
aisle?
was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's courteous.
Yeah.
What a courteous thing to do.
You know, and I know, like, Kevin had a bad experience in prison with his roommate and shit, but it wasn't that bad,
No, no.
I don't know. Did you ever talk about that on the program?
No, I mean like little bits, but yeah, that I had a
But,
couple.
yeah,
bad,
that guy,
I had a couple bad fucking monkeys for a while there.
yeah, he ended up fucking dying, right? The guy died.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he passed away.
But,
You
know,
don't sound
that-
remorseful at all.
mean,
Did you kill a guy?
The guy was the guy was a piece of shit.
You
The
don't
guy
cut
was
this
a
in
piece of
post.
shit.
Yeah.
If anybody deserved to die, he would be it.
Yeah, he was
Sounds
old.
horrible.
I think he died of natural causes. I believe. He was an old guy. He was just he was the ultimate picture of institutionalized person. Like he had been in for like
Yes.
decades. And
Yeah.
he was stuck. And that was his whole life. So.
But I feel sorry for the person that goes to prison and they have like zero street smarts. Like if you have just a little bit of street smarts, you can navigate prison.
Yeah, those
But
are the people that really
Yeah,
suffer.
if you have zero, you're gonna get taken advantage of. You're gonna be extorted. Like it's gonna be a very, very horrible experience for you. But if you know how to shut your mouth, have respect, then you're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I think it wasn't just street smarts that I felt awful for people. Like I knew the people that were going to suffer, and it, to a man, the people that suffered were the guys that didn't know who they were before they got to prison. If you knew who
Right.
you were, you can stay in your own lane, you can find your own hustle, you'll figure it out. But the people who are like chameleons and didn't know who they were, they really like young kids, like they were the ones that got stood on, So
That's a good point.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate with my prison experience. I really do. Because I've heard some like really horrific fucking stories of what happened to people in there, and I'm like, damn. Like I'll give you an example, and Kevin, you can relate to this. Like we heard stories about Paul Biles. Remember Paul?
Yeah.
Like whenever he got transferred to another prison, then like some gang took advantage of him, and Paul was serving a 25-year life sentence. He was trying to get on parole. He was under the old system, so he was trying to do the right thing. And he was at Avon Park for 20 years. Then he transferred to another prison, like some Christian camp or something. Tried to do the right thing, and he got took advantage of. But I hear Paul was back at Avon Park. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, just stories like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're trying to do the right thing in prison, I don't know. It's very hard for you to do the right thing in prison because you have all these obstacles to face. Because if you do the right thing in prison, they're going to think you're a snitch, or they're going to think this, or they're going to think that.
Yeah, like you can't like do too good. If you do too good,
Right.
then it's like suspicious. But if you do too bad, then you're gonna have a bunch of fucking problems. So yeah, there's like the street smarts. You got to have a little like
you got to hit the sweet spot.
yeah, it's like a little common sense. And I think that like being able to like really share that experience with some other people. Like I know we saw people that were pretty much like loners and just like for whatever reasons, like just kind of just didn't connect with anyone else, and they had what I would imagine to be an utterly miserable experience. Like being able to have some laughs and like just like discuss what in the fuck is happening as we're being tortured somehow made it better.
Yeah.
Being able to be like, this is horrible. Yeah, I agree. This is horrible. Somehow alleviated the horrible, even for a moment. So that connection, and like you were absolutely pivotal for my survival while I was in there. Like that meant a whole fucking lot, for real.
Yeah, and I think that's the point of this show, is to share these experiences, not to normalize it or lessen it or minimize it. But yeah, I really appreciate your candidness, your candidity. I think that's right. I don't think candidness is right. It's candy. I appreciate your candy.
Yeah, that was his nickname besides Ninja. I wanted to go over that. How did we get these nicknames? Why did I start calling you Ninja, and why did you start calling me Eagle? I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, I don't remember.
That was because there was a bird. We were on the rec yard, and there was one, like the Hawks were in town, you know, and somehow we were talking about the amazing strength of birds, and so like, oh, that thing will come down here and break your fucking back. And then, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You know, that nickname Ninja took on a whole life of its own to where other people assumed I was a martial arts expert.
That probably helped you out a little.
Yeah. It's like, oh damn, they call that dude Ninja, and I was.
Where did it come from? Where did it originate from? I think it was like, like you were a ninja in stealth, like knowing I was like cooking something and you would just show up.
Yeah.
I think it came from that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was some silly joke, but then I remember some guy pulled me aside and he was like, hey man, like, yeah, you know, I can tell like by the way you walk that you like, you know some shit. Like, that's like martial arts. And I was just like, yeah, well, you know. And I
don't like to talk about it.
Yeah, I
don't like to
I
talk
never
about it.
said yes. I never said no.
Yeah.
But like, I was like,
Bro.
this is maybe a good nickname.
Dude, literally when I met Kevin, every day after that was like a Dave Chappelle Netflix special. That was our life every day. I mean, every day. Who experiences that every fucking day? That was Kevin and I. Like, we would crack on fucking guards. Like, it was just a fucking full-blown, nothing but laughing, to like genuinely laughing and crying that we're laughing so fucking hard.
Dude, there was that one.
I have a great story.
Okay.
Like, one of my favorite stories with you is probably we had this fat fucking guard. Like, he was fat as fuck.
That's the one.
And we were coming out the chow hall together one day, and I looked at him. I'm like, man, have you been working out? It looks like you lost some weight. You know, this motherfucker didn't lose no weight. He gained weight. You know, and I don't know his response on that, but that was our life. Like that's what we did. You know,
Dude, that
it was
shit-
just fucking funny as shit.
that guy, he looked like a fucking tugboat captain for one. He,
I think that was our nickname for him was
Yeah, yeah.
Tugboat Cat.
yeah,
I think.
yeah, every time you do that shit used to make me fucking weak. Every time he's like, damn, Sarge, looking good, Sarge.
Dude, yeah, every time I walk by, every time he worked, I'm like, man, you looking good, bro. Keep up, whatever you're doing.
Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I used to love gassing them up, dude. That was the best because they
Dude,
can't get mad at you for gassing them up, you know?
So fucking-
Yeah. Officer Letters was probably Kevin's favorite.
oh,
Like, we would crack on that guy constantly.
oh my god. That
Like,
guy,
what did he do? Sleep in his truck last night? He didn't shave right. Like this guy like missed the fucking razor on his face like every
Old
time.
Patchy.
Like he
Yeah.
had patches of hair. Officer Letter.
no, he smelled
I
like
don't like you
shit.
today.
He smelled horrible. Yeah, yeah, he was always doing that shit. Yeah, he was a real.
I got eyes on you, Scott.
I don't like you today, Thornton. Yeah. Man,
Oh my God.
Thank you for taking the time out of your weekend to talk to us. I feel like we could keep going for hours and hours, and maybe we'll have you back again to get updates.
We could. I think we need to do another one of these.
I agree, man. No, thank you, and like your
Please.
honesty and like
Yeah.
your ability to like really like say some things that are like hard to say is really special, and like an honor that you shared it with us and for other people too. I think other people will benefit from hearing that.
Yeah,
honesty, too.
I want to say, like, being that open, I hope is great to like, is cathartic, but it really is going to help other people because it's easy to come on the show. We have guests that come on the show that was like, hey, I was in prison and now I went to Harvard. It's easy to talk about that.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about like, I'm struggling, you know?
Hell no, it's been a struggle, man. And I want to end on this. You know, I met some of the most amazing people, artists, intellectuals. I met the most amazing people in prison, but I met the most horrific people in prison as well. I met the most evil and vile people in prison. So for the guy that's going to break into the car tonight, if you want to go to prison, go ahead. It's going to be fun. You'll meet a guy named Kevin Scott. He won't share his Fritos with you. You'll have a hell of a time. So please do it. Break into that fucking car.
Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thank you
Thanks, man.
guys. Appreciate you, man. Do it again.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon. Thank you guys for watching. Like, rate, subscribe, do all the things. You know all the things to do.
Smash that like button.
Smash this, smash that. We'll be back soon with some other compelling guests.
That's right. Next
That's
week.
Kevin Scott when you go to prison.
All right, brother. Talk to you then. Later. Love you.